Hello everyone and welcome to another watercolor painting tutorial. We're going to be painting a similar sky to a painting that I painted a while back. So it's going to be, a nature scene here. And I'm just taping, I just used regular Scotch tape and I cut out a circle and I'm just kind of plopping that on the left side of my piece of paper. Now I already used this circle once in a previous painting, so it might leak through, so do use a fresh piece of tape. So I was really lacking painting inspiration, so I'm not entirely sure what this is going to turn out looking like, but I do want to make the majority of it this really dark, dramatic sky. And so I'm using blue for the sky, of course. It's going to be a night sky, and the base of it is going to be already a super dark blue, which is a little bit different to the sky that I painted. Like, once we start painting the details of the sky, you'll recognize which painting I'm talking about if you watch my tutorial, all of my tutorials. But we're just going to cover this with that layer of blue, and you're welcome to use a mop brush. If it would be easier to use a mop brush because it covers more surface area and it holds a lot more paint, but I am just too lazy to get that out. And of course, so I'm just using my size 14 round brush by Grumbacher here, linked in the description, as all my brushes are. So I'm going to bring this horizon down to, or the sky down to my horizon, and the horizon is going to be somewhere here. And I'm going to paint it diagonally, as you can see. I'm okay with this. So just make sure that you've got a good amount of moisture on that background, because immediately you're going to take black watercolor, and if you're a little intimidated by the black, you can mix in some blue, and we are going to paint these big bold streaks right across, and these are going to be clouds that are wisping through the sky. And the closer that you get to the horizon, the smaller that your clouds are going to be. So thinner, not as large. So that does look a little bit chaotic at the moment, but don't worry. As it spreads out, it should look a little bit nicer. So I'm grabbing a little bit more black. I want to make these clouds very dramatic, because in the previous painting, I don't know when I'm going to release this one, so I can't say how many videos back it was, but I find that the clouds, they dried, even though they looked very dark when I was painting them, they dried very light. So I am trying to make them quite dark and intense here. Okay, so we're gonna let this dry, and then while it's drying, I am gonna figure out what we're gonna turn this into. Okay, so I kind of sat here for a bit wondering what this should be. I didn't want it to be the same as the other painting that I released previously, where it was just a bunch of pine trees. I mean, this is still probably gonna have pine trees, but I want to make it a little bit different. So we are gonna paint mountains. That's what we're gonna do. So I'm taking some black mixed with blue, and I'm sticking with my size 14, but anything with a nice point will do for this part. We can't make these mountains down here. I mean, we can, but there's going to be quite a contrast since we paint it. There's a base color here, but not here. So if we, start painting, this line will clearly be visible through the watercolor. So instead, I'm going to start the mountain here somewhere. So I do have a tutorial that goes over how to paint mountains, but we are just painting kind of that shadow line. So this is my point. This is going to be my point. I am going to switch actually to a size 1 by Winsor & Newton here. So I've got my point, and then this line is the shadow line. So it goes like this. And then this is the right side of the mountain. And it's going to fade into the background there. And then I'm going to extend the shadowy part. So this is the center of the mountain, essentially. So we can connect it with the left side of the mountain, which is going to continue downwards like this. And you can add some details that kind of, it's really hard to explain this part. In fact, it's better if you just watch my 4 techniques on how to paint mountains video, because I go over this technique much better than I am now. Because it's, for me, it's just very intuitive where I paint the details of the mountain to make it look a little bit more realistic, and it's hard to explain why I'm painting that way. So it might confuse you. Here, I made a mistake. Oh God, I joined with the dark side before it had a chance to dry enough. And so now it's blending and just completely ruining this. So that's great. I'm gonna just let it dry, I guess, because if I try to fix it on this side, then I'm gonna make it worse. So I'm just adding some darker features or darker details on this part that is supposed to be exposed to the sun. Whatever, I don't care. Let's let this dry, and then we'll come back and try to fix it. Okay, so this is dry. We can try and fix this. I think it's dry. Probably isn't based on my experience, but whatever. So I am just going over, I'm trying to follow what I painted earlier because I can sort of see it through the paint. So you can, hopefully you'll just avoid what I just did to begin with, so you don't have to do what I'm doing. I hear that you guys really like seeing me mess up and try and fix it, so that's why I'm keeping this, because I am not impressed with this painting, and I just don't feel like painting today at all. So this is what you get on a day that I don't feel like painting. I've been procrastinating filming more tutorials for a week, probably. I'm not in the mood for some reason. I just don't have the inspiration for it at the moment. So when I force myself to paint, most of the time it actually works out, but today yeah, I just had nothing in the head. Like there was nothing there. I didn't know what to paint. So, oh, I am so not happy with how that looks. Wow. Oh my. Whatever. So yeah, I just want to kind of not match this side, but I am adding some darker features on the side that is supposed to be exposed to the light or the moon, the sun, whatever. I'm just adding some things there. Just to try and make it look a little more jagged and natural, I guess. So I've rinsed my brush and tried to dry it so that I can blend these sections together, but not in a way that they completely lose their contrast. Just so that there's a more natural progression of, or a transition of color. And I'm making sure not to touch the wet part this time because I don't want to redo this for a third time. Okay, I'm gonna leave this. I'm not happy with it, but as I say that, I start adding more. This is what I do. Okay. So, yeah. I say that I'm done with this mountain, but I can't promise that. We'll see what happens. So I think what I'm going to do is add tiny pine trees on the base of this mountain, and then they're going to move downwards. Like we're going to pretend that this mountain is continuing on downwards, but it's so covered in pine trees that you cannot see the mountain itself, but that may change. I'm just trying to figure out what we're gonna do with this. So I'm gonna let this dry before we paint our pine trees. Okay, so you can take black watercolor now, and we're gonna be painting pine trees that just extend just beyond the base of the mountain here. What I forgot to mention earlier, by the way, and I'm just lucky that I happened to paint the shadow on the right side, but you do want to make the light side of your mountain on the side of your moon. Because obviously if this dark side was on this side, it would make no sense because the moon gives off light, so naturally the dark side should be here. I'm just really lucky that I did that because I wasn't thinking about that at all at the time. So anyway, here I'm just adding little pine trees, and you don't necessarily have to, whoa, the lights in this room are going crazy. You don't have to be hyper precise with this. You could just kind of go like this. I'm gonna actually go a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. So you could just, you know, paint a bunch of lines like this and then just add a few details on every few lines, or you can paint it a lot more detailed and, you know, paint every single individual tree. Totally up to you. Watch this be a painting that actually turns out to be so nice and beautiful. That's honestly usually how it is. You are just, or at least for me, when I'm not feeling a painting but I'm forcing myself to finish it, it ends up turning out to be just a beautiful piece of art. So let's hope that that's what happens with this one, because at the moment I'm really not impressed. So what I did just there, you just saw me take my bigger brush, my size 14, I dipped it in a tiny bit of water, and I just extended the watercolor there so the black from the trees could bleed downwards. Why did I do that? I don't know. I think I wanted to create a misty effect. I don't know why I did that. You can choose to do that if you want. I guess you should do that if you're gonna follow along, because we might do something with that later. This is a little bit time consuming. I'm not liking how long this is taking. I'm just kind of using different combinations of methods here of painting pine trees to try and cover the space. Because I don't know what this is gonna, if we're gonna be painting over these trees or whatnot, like I don't know how detailed to actually make them. I think, you know what I'm gonna do? No, never mind. I was thinking of making them bigger and bigger and going like this, which I'll do eventually probably anyways, but it wouldn't make sense if this layer started extending that way. So we're not gonna do that. And here, as I move downwards, I am just blending out the base of those trees. So I am trying to work quickly with this first layer. Add a lot more black up here. And then I'm adding water just beneath that. And I'm extending that water all the way to the bottom of the page. I'm just gonna zoom back out, and here I am tilting my piece of paper so that like I'm holding it upright almost. And what I wanna do, or what I'm intending on doing, like the purpose of this is we're letting that black bleed downwards. I didn't add enough water here, so that's what I'm doing. So I even picked up some black, like very watered down black on my paintbrush, and I'm dabbing that on. What I want to avoid though is this pooling of water at the bottom. So I am picking up that water. All right, so I'm not exactly sure what this is supposed to be. And I don't know how I feel about it yet. I'm adding some more black. Tilting my piece of paper again. And just letting that black run downwards. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then what I'm going to do is think about what we're gonna do next. Okay, so this is not dry, but I'm not too particular. Like, I just didn't want it to be soaking wet like it was before. And this bottom part is dry, which is kind of the most important. So what I'm gonna do now is have another layer of trees starting up here. They're gonna be bigger and they're gonna be coming downwards. So I'm again taking that black, and I'm gonna be utilizing, I say this now, but I'm not exactly sure if that's what I'm doing. I might be utilizing this technique that I've showed you in earlier videos where I kind of flick the paintbrush upwards. By flicking my paintbrush upwards like this, I'm covering a substantially large amount of area here. And so I've utilized this in a previous video, this technique where I then extend it with a smaller brush, and then you run your brush horizontally, like zigzagging back and forth, and it creates these really nice looking pine tree like figures while covering quite a bit of space. And so I'm gonna continue this. It's gonna drop substantially over here, like so, because I want some of this misty area to show through, and it's not gonna pick back up until maybe this side a little bit, like that. So I did want to fade this out nicely, but you know what? My paintbrush is drying too quickly. And so is the paint that I've already applied, which obviously is not ideal because we're not done painting. Do you guys ever have those moods? Like you are just not in the mood? Everything annoys you? That's the mood that I'm in right now. Also, I feel like I've been sick so much in the last 2 months. Well, I've been sick twice, but it's persisted, the symptoms have persisted for 3 weeks, and it's just a cold, but my gosh, it's infuriating. Like I feel like I can't, I'm not fully myself. I'm not fully back to having tons of motivation and energy to do stuff. And I certainly didn't feel like painting, but here we are, showing up for you guys, trying to pay my bills. Oh, I don't know if by the time this video is released, if my Patreon will be active again. If it is, please go check it out. I have currently, at the time of recording this, which is in December, like mid-December, I have a exclusive video available on there that isn't on YouTube and never will be. And yeah, I would love suggestions on what to release there, so that you guys, like, what kind of content would you pay for? Would you like to see if you were a patron? That is what I'd love to know. Okay, so I'm just gonna try and pick up some paint in this corner where I've got these pine trees, because I do want there to be like a misty effect going on here. And I'm going to also try and pick up some paint here, although it's not going to be as easy because these trees are already dry. So what I'm doing is I'm going over them again, just very, very lightly. Because if I didn't, it would cauliflower. It would spread to the areas that have already dried and just kind of look horrible, not look great. So that's why I was wetting it first, so that when it spreads very fluidly and naturally looking. So I just picked up some more pigment here as well. Try and make it look kind of misty. Although I'm not sure how much I like that. I'm gonna add another pine tree layer on top here while this is still wet. I do want to have something here because this is a bit bright for me. So let's see, let's have a pine tree coming up here. And then I'm gonna maybe have it fade away in the mist here at the bottom. So I have to be very mindful of how I do this. All right, that actually doesn't look too bad. I am going to paint that there to make it look like there is part of the tree peeking out on the other side of the mist. And then perhaps have it extending on this side. So what I'm doing is I'm constantly dipping my paintbrush into water and then dabbing it on a paper towel. So that's all right, I guess. I want something dramatic. I want to make this painting more dramatic, like have a giant tree coming up or something like that, so that this space is filled up a little bit, or this space is filled up, because right now it's looking really bare. First thing I'm gonna do, just in case I do have the tree coming up on this side, is I'm gonna peel this tape off to reveal the super bright moon. And I think I am gonna have a tree coming up here, similar to this one. So should I have it? Yeah, I'm gonna have it overlapping the moon just a tiny bit. So I'm kind of using the blotchy blotch technique, if you've seen my videos here, to paint this pine tree. And I quite like how the size 1 brush is achieving that look. It actually doesn't look half bad. This kind of looks like those, I may be mixing this up with something else, but I'm pretty sure it looks like those Japanese temple paintings with the trees there. That's the vibe I'm getting here, but perhaps I'm mixing it up with something else. So because this part there was a bit of mist there, you can now see this pine tree through that mist. But I am gonna blend it out a little bit. Oh, I'm very tempted to make this sort of misty looking, but I feel like I'm gonna ruin the sky if I do that, so I'm not going to go there. I think I am okay with how this turned out. I'm not gonna add anything else, but you're welcome to. I hope you guys got something out of this video or you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit like on this video, subscribe to my channel. And if you didn't, feel free to suggest what you would have done differently in the comments. I'm always open to critique. Thanks for watching.